getting it nice and clean inside and all around the outside of the pad. And I'll come this direction just to make it comfortable for him. And again, scoop inside there and just get and remove all of that hair in between the feet, in between the pads, and get that nice and clean. I don't ever on a golden retriever clip around their butt at all, but I do shave inside the ear. And you can see his ear is really dirty. Looks like he's starting an ear infection. A lot of dogs right now in my area are having allergies. So you'll notice it'll come out in their ears and in their skin. So if you have a dog that constantly has a chronic ear infection, it's probably allergies. So now that I've shaved his pads and inside his ear, I never shave up inside this area either on a golden retriever. I will do that on dogs I'm giving a haircut to. So this is our de-shedding tool. This tool is what I'm going to use to shape him. So I'm going to take and I'm going to start at his rear area. Golden retrievers should have a level top line with a slight slope in the rear. So we're going to give him that. And you can notice just on the couple of brushes that I did with this, it's removing his dead undercoat. And he has an excessive amount of dead undercoat today. And you'll see a lot of golden retrievers will have that really fuzzy hair here, and you just use this tool and it removes that fuzzy coat. And you can use this on collies, shepherds, shelties. And what I like to do is I'll start at the rear and I'll hold the coat and move my way up. So I'll pull some more. And I'm going to get rid of that undercoat in that section and pull another section down. And you can see how much undercoat I'm getting. And it's a little staticky in here. So I'm going to use a little bit of a spray. This is just a conditioning spray that I like to use. I always like to use a spray whenever I'm brushing because it adds elasticity to their coat and it's not going to damage their coat. If you take this on a dirty coat and you rip through the coat, you're going to damage the coat. So we're just going to take and get rid of this undercoat as best we can and move my way forward. And I'm just using this just like you would a brush. I'm not pressing really hard. I'm holding it lightly, but I'm not doing it lightly. I'm just using it like I would a brush. And we're going to work our way towards his head. You can come down the front leg. Let me go this way so I'm not in the camera's way. And I'm going to hold up his ear and I'm going to get behind his ear. You want to give them some neck so he doesn't look like he's hunched like this. You want to make sure that we give him a nice long neck. So by removing all of the stud undercoat around his neck, you'll achieve that. Good boy. And you want to make sure that you're also holding the skin So you can get in here and really clean this area up. You want to also show this muscle. He's a big boy. He's a little overweight. Well, not a little, he's a lot of overweight. But we still want to show that nice shoulder on him. Good boy. Good boy. And by removing all of the dead undercoat in this area here, it's going to make his top line look a lot straighter. We're going to get rid of some of that bulk. And I'll use this this de-shedding tool on American Cockers, Springers, anything terriers it's great on. It will not damage the top coat. It just removes that dead undercoat, and you can feel it pull all that dead undercoat out. Good boy. Nope, lift it up. And his parents like him trimmed up, his owners do. So we're going to trim up his furnishings. And I really won't have to trim him up a great deal because we've already removed most of that undercoat. So they basically just want him debulked. So if I look at this side compared to this side, you can tell that I've removed quite a bit of that undercoat, which is making him look a lot thinner. You're a good boy. Okay, so I'm going to take my Pulse ZR2 and attach my A comb attachment. So these are our comb attachments, and I have a 30 blade on here right now. You can use a 30 or a 10 blade, whatever you prefer. I like a 30. And I'm gonna take this and let me get my comb. And just give this a quick comb through. Still a little staticky. Just a light spray. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to skim this down his rear. I'm not going to go inside and dig out the angulation. I'm just going to make it look very natural. And I'm going to come around the outside a little bit as well. We just want this to look very natural. Golden should look very natural. They shouldn't look overgrown. And I'm using a very light touch when I'm doing this. Okay. Very lightly. Comb this down. And this. And I'm not going to use my attachment to do this. I'm going to scissor this. I just want to see how much hair I want to take off. And it's really important to make sure that you're standing back when you're grooming and looking at your dog from kind of far away. You want to make sure that you stand back and look to see what hair you want to cut off. If you're standing on top of your dog a lot, it's very hard to see the outline in the profile. So stepping away is helpful. Okay. I am going to start to do my feet. And I always do my feet next because I want to be able to scissor into my foot. I don't want to do this and then my foot. I want to be able to scissor into my foot. So I find it helpful to do my feet first. And I'm just taking my slicker brush and I'm using a pair of small curved shears. And I'm going to take any excess hair off on the outside of the pad. I'm going to put that foot down. Can you see that okay? And I'm going to outline the foot with my scissors. And get anything that I can off with my sharp shear, my curve. And then I'm going to brush up this hock hair. Now, Golden should not have a ton of hock hair. It really depends on their bone. So he's a male, he's got nice thick bone, but we sometimes see those females that have really small bone structure. So you can leave this a little fuller to give the illusion of more bone. But he has quite a bit, so we don't need to leave that much. So I might come in here to save time and take my 4-blade, which is where? Here it is. So I'm going to take my 4-blade and I'm going to skim down that with my 4. So I don't have to do so much scissoring. That's going to help me save some time. Give it a comb up. Do it again. Okay.
Tammy, if I may interrupt,
Yes.
can you repeat what blade did you use? Is it a 4FC? Is that what you said?
Yes, a 4FC.
A 4FC, okay.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to come in and I'm just going to scissor this straight down. So I'm not taking any really more hair off. I'm just evening it out with the 4 that I used. Okay. Now I'm going to brush up the hair on top of the foot. And like I said earlier, we want them to have a nice knuckle, a nice tight cat-like foot. So I always come in and I angle my shears down at the tip of the toes first. And I never hold my foot up and do them. I find if I hold the foot up and do it this direction, I take too much off and then I'm making that flat foot. So if I come this direction and come straight down, we're starting to build up that foot. Give it another brush. And very lightly just taking that excess coat off. So on the back end, now that my foot is done, I can start to do a little of my scissor work. And I want to come in right underneath the tail and clean this up very lightly. And these, I'm using a chunker, a blend. These are more of a blender, they call them, a chunker. It depends on the teeth. It's a little bit wider. The teeth are a little bit more apart than, say, a thinning shear. I like to use these on Goldens, Collies, Shelties. They're very forgiving. So if the dog moves, it's not going to take a lot of coat off, like, say, a straight edge shear would. So I'm going to use these to just blend this coat that I already took off and created the length with. And I'm just coming back and making it look neat. Okay. And now I'm going to do the tail. And when we do the tail, let me get my long combs. These are our Andis combs. These combs are excellent. They're stainless steel. We have a long comb with the teeth are a little closer together for more of detailed work. And this is a smaller comb for smaller dogs with the teeth are closer together on one end for more detailed work. But because I have a bigger dog, I'm going to use my bigger comb and get through this tail. And when I'm doing their tail, Golden's tails, the bone of their tail should not reach any further than the top of the hock. So if they're built structurally, his bone is here. So his bone is level with the top of his hock. And so we can take some coat off the end of that tail. He's got a very thick tail. So I'm just going to come back and give it a light mist. So we don't have so much static. And I'm going to pull all of this coat down. Okay. And I'm going to come with my blenders and just get as much of that off as I can. And then we're going to start to shape the underside of it. And this is more natural looking, like Golden should be. If we took our straight edge, it would be too blunt. So we don't want that. We want it to be just very natural looking. And now I'm going to part the hair on the Golden's tail. I part it on both sides so that when we lift it up, we can form that nice round. We can shape this tail into a nice round half moon shape. You're okay. Let's say Bubba. And I'm going to check this side. Okay. And we're going into our fall season, so it's going to be rainy here, and a lot of the leaves are going to be falling, so a lot of dogs will drag in those leaves. So a lot of our clients want their hair just a little bit shorter, so they're not dragging in all of that. And we're coming out of our summer season, so a lot of dogs were shorter anyways because of the summer. Okay. Move some of this stuff out of the way and come around the other side. Give this just a light mist again. And I'm going to comb all of this hair down. And again, I'm going to take my blenders. Get this little bit of hair off here from inside the back of the leg. And I'm going to take my blenders and I'm going to come straight underneath him. And get all this coat under his belly and trim that off. And you can go shorter. His parents like him about this length, so I'm not going to go any shorter. But of course, you can make this as short. His undercarriage is about here, so I could take more off. But his parents like it just about this length. Just very natural looking. Okay. So to do his foot on his front, I'm going to get my flicker brush, which is, here's my flicker brush, here it is. And I'm going to come and I'm going to pull all of this leg hair down with my other hand. And I'm going to take my curves and I'm going to come straight across that top pad and clean that all up. I'm going to brush between his toes and clean up all of that hair around his toes, anything around the pads that's coming up. I'm going to scissor that right off.
Tammy, we have a question from one of the participants.
Okay.
Yes. It says that why use a blender when it seems to be cutting the same amount of hair off that a scissor would?
Well, the blender makes it a little more natural looking. It's not a necessary straight edge. Like if I was to take my straight shears and cut this, it probably looks on camera that it's straight,
Right.
but it does look very natural.
So to give a natural look, we use a blender instead of a straight or a curved shear.
Correct.
Right.
And on the back of his front leg, I'm just using my small thinners now. These are I think they're about 44 tooth blender thinner. And I'm going to come in and just make kind of an angle this way. We're going to angle that down. So that he's not bringing in any of those leaves and dirt from the wet weather that's coming. I'm going to brush all of this hair up. And again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go on the outside of his foot with my straight edge and make sure that I'm getting all of this tight. It is okay on a golden to show their toenails. You don't have to hide them. I do cut them as short as I can and also use a nail grinder. We actually have a really awesome nail grinder I can show you. It's a cordless nail grinder. It's 6 speeds. You power it up and you just turn the speeds up like this. And so I would use my nail grinder and just grind and round off the tips of his nails so that I can actually get his feet tighter. And I already did this earlier this morning, but just to give you an example of how that works, that's really how you want to get their feet, their nails nice and tight, nice and short, so you can get their feet nice and tight. So coming from this direction, so I can stay out of the camera's way, I'm going to come in and again, angle my thinners towards the table. The tip of my thinner is towards the table. And I'm just very lightly taking some of that coat off at the actual nail so we can achieve that nice, tight, cat-like foot. And now I'll come down and get some of that hair. Take my brush it up again, check my work. And the other reason why I like the blenders, like I had said earlier, is because they're a little bit more forgiving. So if I was cutting, you know, this with my straight edge and the dog like went to sit down or move, I'm not going to cut a straight edge. So they're a little bit more forgiving. That's another reason why I like them. Okay. So we have his feet done now. His underside is trimmed. Let me trim a little bit on this side, just because you can see that I have just a little bit under here. Okay. And now we're going to move to his head. Can everybody see? Let me move my table back just a little bit. Adjust my camera. So on their faces, I like to shave their whiskers. You don't have to, but I like to shave his whiskers. So I take a 7 FC blade, and I'm going to find his 2 eyebrow whiskers up here, shave them off. And I'm not pressing very, very hard to the skin. I'm just using a lighter motion. And this does not take off really any of his facial hair. Here I can press relatively hard now. And we want to get those 2 back. And I'm going to pull his skin. I'm just going to take that 7 and go reverse right along his face. And it's really not going to take any of that hair off besides the whiskers. Make sure that we get this whisker here. And it just makes their face look so much smoother, and they look like puppies again when you shave their whiskers. So his ear, Golden's ears, when you hold them up, they should just cover their eye. So we're going to take the whole back side of his ear off. Let me come from this direction. And I comb all of this hair down. And I'm using my small thinners. Again, we want them to be natural. If you had a dog that had a lot of hair on the ear, you could, of course, come in and get most of it off with a straight or shear or a curved shear, but then you want to make sure that you go back with your thinning shears and use them, because again, it should just be very natural. And sometimes if I have a Golden that has a lot of hair on their ear, I'll even run a blade over it, say maybe a 1 attachment comb, and to get rid of some of that hair. And I'm going to comb all of that forward. And with this hand, I'm using and I'm poking out his ear, okay? You want to make sure you know where the edge of the ear is. We're going to get rid of all of this. And you can see his ear is very red and inflamed. And I'm going to get rid of some of this bulk under the ear. Their ears should lay nice and flat to their head. Okay, and you can take your comb and comb that hair up. And I'm gonna, again, I'm pushing that ear out with my other hand. And I'm coming in and getting rid of some of this bulk off the top of the ear. And you can even take your de-shutter on the top of the ear. He doesn't really have much to show, but if you had a dog that had a lot of hair on the top of the ear, you can even take this and use this to remove some of that dead undercoat, and that's going to help that lay flat. And I'm going to come in and get right underneath here and get all of this undercoat removed so that the ear lays a little flatter on the side of its head. And now you can see there's more of that separation around the ear. Okay. And the last thing that I do is I make him sit, and I'm going to check his underline. Can you sit, Peyton? Good boy. So we want to make sure that the first thing they do is go home and they sit in front of their owner. So I want to make sure that this matches his underline that I heard already trimmed. So I'm going to get my blenders again. And I'm going to make sure that this is even with the underside. And I'll do this pretty much on every single dog that I groom. That's the last thing that I do is make them sit so that all of that hair is even. Okay, buddy, you think you're all done? Yes, you were a good boy. Does anybody have any questions? Let's see if I can turn him a little closer so you can see. Now, when I make him stand up, this is going to be even with this.
I've unmuted everybody, so if they want to ask a question instead of typing, they are free to do so.
And I'm going to actually clean out his ears really quick because and to finish him off, I always use a finishing spray. This is a high sheen finishing spray. It just makes their coat shiny.
Tammy, you won't do anything more on the chest? Tammy, we can't hear you. There was a question. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So there was a question. If you would do anything more on the chest.
You could, if you wanted to, you could take more off of this, but his owners like him like this. So you certainly could take more off of the chest, yes. It just depends on what your clients want.
When you
And I'm just gonna.
do you give a V shape? You give a U shape? What? How do you do that?
There really isn't a shape, I would say. It kind of comes to a point here. When you're looking at them from the front, you can see the shoulder.
I'm sorry, Tammy. 1 second. I think you're muted. Sorry, 1 second. Just give me a minute. Yes, now can you please repeat that?
I said it's probably more into a V shape here. I don't cut it into a V. His hair just naturally comes to a V here, but I don't cut it into a V. I just make sure that it looks even and neat, and his parents like him this length, but you could take more of this off. You could take more of that off with your comb attachment and skim some of this off. It just depends what your client wants.
Sure. Thank you.
One more question we have from Isha. What conditioner sprays can we use?
So the conditioner spray that I use it's called Crown Royale. Let me show you the bottle. This is called Crown Royale. It's Magic Touch 3. There are different formulas. This is 3. I think 3 is just a little more diluted than 1 or 2.
Right.
So this is concentrate. So I do dilute this with water and keep it in my spray bottle. But you want to be very careful when you're diluting anything with water. You want to make sure that you're using a distilled water or water that you're only going to need for about 3 days, because water starts to build bacteria in it, and you don't want to put that bacteria on your dog.
Also, to answer Isha, there is you can check BioGroom. They do have a conditioner spray which can be used for de-shedding, and after the grooming, you can use it as a brush for detangling.
Okay.
In India, we have BioGroom is available. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know what you have in India, what's available as far as products go. So that Crown Royale, it may not be available, but any type of a conditioning spray is good. Anything that is going to help add elasticity to the coat.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's take you down.
Also, very interesting point we learned is that you always make the dog sit, because that's how the dog will sit in front of the owner. So you check the front view and then you let the dog go.
Yep. On every dog, I do that too. Come on.
So now Tammy is going to groom a Maltese, and the same groom can be used for a Shih Tzu and for a Lhasa Apso. More for a Lhasa Apso than a Shih Tzu, because Shih Tzu will have a more rounded face, but it's almost similar.
Very similar. The one that I'm going to do now is the longer coated one. So I'm just going to show you a few things on this one, not too much. Let's see. I'm going to brush off all of my hair off of my table. Okay. Okay, this is Fiji. He was in a haircut probably in February. His mom started to grow him out to be long. So he's been taking quite a while to grow out. And whenever I'm doing a breed like this that's a drop coat, I'm going to use more of a pin brush. Obviously, if you have one that is matted or has some tangles, you can use a slicker brush to help get it out. But I don't want to damage his coat, so I'm going to use a pin brush. And I'm going to make him stand up. Come here. And so again, he's been, go ahead.
Yes, so one more question is, what other breeds can we use the pin brush on?
Shih Tzus, Lhasa Apsos, Yorkshire Terriers. These are good brushes to use on any drop coat.
Okay.
Okay. So on Fiji, I'm going to start again showing my prep work, and I'm going to start with doing his pads really quickly, getting all of that hair out. And on both feet.
Tammy, sorry to interrupt. Can we get the table a bit closer? So because smaller dog, so it's just will be better.
Let me move it closer. Is that better?
Yes, thank you. Much better.
Okay. Can even get it a little closer. Yeah. Okay. And again, this is our 5-in-1 clipper. This clipper is great for prep work. So just that quick tidy up around the feet. You want to make sure when you're shaving their feet that you're not shaving any of this coat off, just strictly around the outside of the pad. And on him, I'm going to clip around his butt very lightly, not touching it, just skimming up, and a little bit underneath his belly.
Tammy, is this the LCL2 clipper you are using, and what are the blade settings on it?
So this is the Li5. Hi, Rohit.
Hi.
This is the Li5, and this goes from a 9 to a 40 blade. So it's 5 different blade lengths.
All right, great, thanks.
Okay. So on him, I've not cut his toenails. I'm going to show you our nail clippers. Our nail clippers are really nice. They have a lock, so you can lock them. They have a blade guard, so that if you're too nervous to do them, you can put the guard on it and it will not cut the nail too short, and they're spring loaded, so they have a spring. So I'm going to just tip the end of his nails at a 45-degree angle, and this is going to allow me, just like the golden, to get those feet tighter. And again, his mom wants his feet tight because we're coming into that fall weather, and we want to make sure that he's not dragging in a lot of those leaves and his feet won't be too wet. Now I'm going to use our grinder. This is our nail grinder. And very lightly, just on the first blade, because he's tiny, on the first feed, we're going to just round the edge of his nail. And what's nice about this nail grinder is if you get coat caught in it, it's going to immediately turn off. But I want to make sure that I pull any of that excess hair up so I don't get any hair caught in there. But it will stop automatically in case you do. And we're just going to soften the ends of the nail. And I want to make sure that I have a nice part down the middle of the back. And we're going to comb all of this hair down. Can you turn to the side, buddy? And we're going to trim around his feet. And I comb all of that hair down around his feet. You want to make sure that you come right up to that nail. And I'm gonna feel where that nail is and come right up to it. And I'm gonna come underneath and get all of that. And if you can see, I'm never using this motion. I have this blade of my shear is on my table and I'm coming around. I'm never lifting that blade off the table. Okay, so now we have a nice foot. We can just come up a little higher in the back so that nothing is really going to hit the ground. Same thing in the front. I want to comb this all down. And in the front, I start in the front of the foot. I find where those toenails are. And that's my first cut, is right in front of the foot. And the reason why I do this is because if I come from this angle, I might make those pointy feet, and we want to have nice round feet. So I'm going to comb it again, find those nails, and come straight in front. And I'm going to come from behind. And my shear is probably about, I would say, a 30-degree angle. If I held it straight, I'm going to cut the top coat. So when I'm coming from this direction, I'm holding my shear out so I can start to make a bevel. I'm going to comb it again. And again, I'm holding my shears out so that we can start to make that bevel. Okay. I'm going to do the inside of the foot coming from this direction. Same thing, holding my shear out at a 30-degree angle, and I'm coming to the front of the foot where I already cut all of that hair off. Okay. And that's all I'm going to do on his feet and on his body because his mom wants him long. So we're going to come into his top knot. And I'm going to get my little rubber band. I like to use these really little rubber bands to put up a top knot. And then I have a little top knot bow. Let's turn you this way. And his mom is also growing this hair out between his eyes. And I like to use this Artero protein. It's a cream. And I just put a little in my hand and rub it into his top knot. It's a very thick conditioner, so it helps to condition the coat, and it's not going to break off any of his hair. So I'll put a little bit in his top knot and just a little bit around his eye so that we can start to train that hair to grow either up or down. And I'm just going to use my detailer side of my comb to get some of that hair up. Okay, and then what I do is I go from the corner of the eye and form a triangle to the back of the head. And the same thing on this side, the corner of the eye. And we're going to make a triangle shape into the back.
Tammy, we couldn't see that because I think your back was facing the camera. Yes.
Okay. So we're going to take into the corner of this eye and comb that up, and the corner of this eye and comb that up. And now we have what we want to put up in the top knot. And get some of that back hair off. It does help to use either some type of a cream or a cholesterol, some type of a conditioner, because it actually weighs the hair down, so it's a little bit easier to work with. And I go 3 times around in my top knot, and then I pull the ears down, okay? Because right now we have the ears are being pulled up. I like to pull the ears down so that it's just more natural. And then I'll take the end of the back end of the top knot and pull it, and that's going to set that in. Okay. And we can take the detail part of the comb. Actually, I'm going to use the wider part of the comb and come this direction and pull a little bit of that forward. And that's how you're going to get that nice,
शानू तो से करता हूँ मैं ना एक वेबिनार अटेंड कर रहा हूँ बेटा
that's how you'll get that bubble. You can see that. And we'll pull that a little bit back. And then I'll take my top knot bow and put my top knot bow in just twice. And he's good to go. And his face, sometimes we trim his face shorter, so you can see it's a lot shorter than the rest of him. Just depends what his owner likes. Okay. And that's all I'll do to him. And we're going to take some of our spray. You can actually use this spray, or I even have a, oh, where's that other stuff? It is, yeah. So this is a shimmer spray. This is a high sheen spray. You can use some of that, or you can use this high sheen spray. And just give it a quick comb down. You can use your pin brush as well. And that's just going to add a nice shine to the coat.
Tammy, we have a question.
Okay.
The participant asking, what conditioner did you use for the top knot?
This is Artero's Protein Vital.
Okay.
Do you have Artero products?
Not yet.
Okay. So you can use a cholesterol or even just a conditioner just in your hands and rub it in. That's going to help with any coat breakage. So you want to always put something in that top knot so that you're not breaking the coat. But then you also have to tell the client to make sure that they brush it out like every other day and redo the top knot. Sometimes most owners with dogs like this can do their own top knots. And if they can't, then I'll teach them how to do it.
So you,
any more questions?
Yes, so my question was, you're recommending any conditioner that we use on dogs, a little bit of it on the top knot, and leave it on the hair. Okay.
Yep.
So we do have BioGroom and we have I Love Dogs, Tropiclean. So those conditioners we can leave it on.
You just want to make sure that it's a conditioner that is not, well, really any conditioner would work. So just a very little bit.
All right. And one more question is, which shampoo is best for Maltese? Like for detangling, and also they're asking, yeah, which shampoo for Maltese?
So I like to use we use Esprit products. And so in our Esprit products, there is a Silky Sheen shampoo and conditioner. I like to use those for Malteses.
Okay.
So anything that, you know, has more of a, I'm trying to think of a BioGroom one would be good. Obviously, I did a little Bright White, a little whitening shampoo on him too. So Bright White is a little bit more harsher. So it can damage their coat. So you want to make sure that you condition them after you use any type of a whitening shampoo.
Right.
Always condition every dog.
And one last question that we have for this groom is how to remove eye stains.
It's very difficult. There's really nothing that you can do as a groomer to remove the eye stains. It's more of a bacterial that is when their eyes are draining liquid and that sits on the coat, that starts to form bacteria. So that is actually what's staining, is the bacteria. So we can't really remove that. There are some good products that the owners could buy. I like Eye Envy. I don't know if you can get Eye Envy, but you can Google it and see if you can get it. It's a powder and a liquid. So you would wet the any stained area. It's all natural. They can ingest it. You can use it around the mouth. And you put the liquid on and then you put the powder on, and it actually mimics an antibiotic. So it's all natural. Or there's actually an antibiotic the dog would have to go on to actually get rid of the staining, like a tetracycline.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go on to our trim. I see we don't have much time left. Okay, this is Billy.
Sorry, we have one more question. One user is asking if we pick the hair from the corner of the eyes for Shih Tzus as well.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The question is, if we pick, for making the top knot, if we pick the hair from the corner of the eyes for Shih Tzu as well.
What should you use?
Like how you made for the Maltese, you pick the hair from the corner of the eye to make a top knot. Is that the same we do for a Shih Tzu?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. It would be the same you would do for a Shih Tzu.
Right.
Okay, so we can save time. I'm not going to show the pads on this dog just because we're running out of time a little bit. And I'm going to get my slicker brush. And this dog gets a one comb attachment. Put your head up a little bit. So we're going to brush all of this hair backwards before we start the haircut. Quickly brush this leg hair up and the chest hair. Okay. And I'm going to start at his head. And right where the dog's occiput is, this bone, right at the top of the head is where I'm going to start. And I'm going to come straight down. Now he was cut probably about 4 weeks ago, so he doesn't have that much hair. And he was cut with a shorter blade. So now that we're coming into our colder months, his owner wants him just a little bit longer. So I'm going to leave him one blade longer, which is our one attachment comb, which is this orange color. And again, I'm using it under a 30 blade. If you had an owner that wanted just a little bit fuller, you can even possibly use it under a 10 blade, and that will just leave that coat a little bit longer. So I'm just following the body, and I'm coming straight down into the elbow. I'm going to hold his head up and come straight down his chest. And get all of that hair off. Now that I have his head and neck area done, I'm going to put him back in the loop. And I'm going to run this straight along his top line, right down his back. And again, all of these haircuts and lengths that I'm doing, it really just depends on what your client wants. And I'm going to run this straight down his angulation and straight down his hip. I don't ever really stop here because when I look at the dog from behind, I want to have a parallel line. So I want straight parallel lines. And if we leave this hip hair too full, it's not going to be parallel. It's going to look like his leg is puffed out. And I'm going to follow this down. Come straight under his belly. And I like to come down the top of the tail just about a blade length. I like that separation in the this angulation here in the tail so that we can see this angulation. Some people like to leave the hair on the tail. I know a lot of my clients like that neat and cleaned up because it's just cleaner when they use the bathroom. And I'm gonna come with my 10 and just clean by his rectum a little bit. Very lightly. I never really touch that. I'm going to take my brush and brush all of this up again. We always want to go over it twice. Make sure that we got all of that hair. Go straight down to the elbow. Off that chest again. And come straight down the top line. And you can see it is taking quite a bit more hair off.
Tammy, just a quick question. You are using the Pulse ZR2 clipper and it has 5 speeds, right? So what is the advantage of having the 5 speeds on this clipper and what is the speed you're using it on?
So this is, yes, 5 speeds. So you will power it up on the side and you can see it's lit. The light indicator is all the way lit up. If I power it down, that light indicator is going to get lighter. Mm-hmm. So if you have a dog that has a puppy that's afraid of the noise or an older dog that's scared, you can use it on a lower speed. And if you have a really thick coat, like a golden doodle coat or a poodle coat, you want to use it on 5. I like to use this on 5 for all of my dogs. obviously if I have an elderly dog that's afraid of the noise or a puppy, I'll turn it down and it's just not as loud. So I'm going to power it back up, and now it's on the highest speed. And this clipper is so powerful. On that high speed, it's going to get through any type of a coat, any super matted areas. It's going to get through that nice and easy.
Thanks, Tammy. You just answered my next question, which was like, does it work on all coat types or any particular coat types?
Yeah, it works on any coat type.
And it comes with
This
a
is a
ceramic
heavy-
cutter, right?
Yes, it comes with a 10 ceramic edge.
Thank you.
And I like to go reverse just on the belly area, just to make this nice and clean. And make sure that you get under the armpit really good. Okay. Now, if he had a little bit more hair on these legs, I like to leave my legs a little bit fuller. It's just a preference. Obviously, if my client wants them short, I'm going to do that. But he, as you can see, he's really leggy. Okay. So if we want to try and correct his structure, we could leave a little bit more coat under here. That's going to give the illusion that he is shorter legs. Or we can leave his top coat a little bit. We want to make his top coat short, but we want to leave coat here. And that's going to, again, give that illusion that he has less leg. And then by leaving his legs a little bit fuller, it's going to make him look like he is not as leggy. And dogs that are very long-bodied, we can shorten them up with grooming. And what I mean by that is leaving coat on the front of the leg and more coat on the back of the front leg. So that would shorten him up. So if he had more coat here, pretend my comb is hair. If he had more coat here and more coat here, it would actually give the illusion that he's shorter backed. So with grooming, we can correct their structure. Can you hear me still? I heard my ear pods might be dying. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you can still hear me. Okay, so really quickly, I guess I'm going to have to do his pads. And I always do my pads on a 30. You can obviously do yours on whatever length you're comfortable using. I'm going to just do these really quickly. I'm going to finish his haircut before our time is out. And his nails are really long, so we're going to cut those as well. And again, using my nail trimmers, I'm going to cut them at a 45-degree angle. Just the tips off really quickly. Good boy, Billy. His nails are really long for some reason. Okay, good boy. And again, we want to make sure that their nails are as short as possible so we can have nice tight feet. And I'm going to brush down and comb up all this hair between the pads. And I'm going to take and cut off any of this hair around the outside of the foot. So we're going to make that nice and neat on both sides. Okay, now we have that nice and cleaned up. And it's really hard. Maltese's coats are hard to work with because they're so straight. So finding a length that is really good for that particular dog. I actually look, I'm only going to take a very little off his legs because I think he looks better with more hair on his legs. He doesn't look so thin. And we're just rounding these feet like we did on the last one. Again, my first cut is always in the front. And making them nice and tight. And I always do all of my feet first. I don't do a foot and then scissor the leg because I feel like I'm just wasting time. Once I get all of my clipper work done, my clipper should never come out again. And once I'm done with all of my prep work, I'm done with that. So I'm moving constantly on to the next thing. So I'm not having to go back and fix anything. So it just saves time as I'm working. And I have the same routine every day. So it's prep work, clipper work, scissor work. Okay. So we're going to cut to the front of this foot, come around the side so we can make a round foot. And I'm going to come this direction and take this off. Okay. Grab my scissors. Now I'm going to comb everything up and start scissoring. Okay, and when I do that, my first cut is always at the rear of the dog, and I'm going to take the space of this tail a little shorter so that I have that separation again. And I'm going to come, and I'm going to use my curve, and I'm going to come straight, and I'm pointing the tip of my curve at this hip bone here, okay? And I'm holding them at about a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to come right around the whole hip of the dog, and I'm going to comb this up, and I'm going to come in and get my angulation. Okay, and when you're doing your angulation, you want to make sure that where the dog's natural bend is, so when you pick up his leg and his knee bends, right here is where the natural bend in the dog's rear. So that's his angulation. So that's where you want to come and you want to bring that angulation to. Some dogs don't have a lot of rear angulation, so we can fix that with grooming. So you can come really short in this area with, say, a 4-blade or even a 7-blade and make this nice and tight to give that nice angulation. Okay, and now I'm going to come with my straight and just scissor this. And again, I'm not taking too much. And with this hand here, I'm going to poke out this tuck up area. So I can come in and clip off that tuck up area. So I'm holding the skin with my finger, so I'm gonna not cut that tuck up skin.
Tammy, we have a
Okay,
question.
okay.
Why do we create the angulation? What does it achieve? Like, what do we accomplish? How does it change the dog's look when we create the angulation?
So it's basically, it gives them just a little more style, and it gives the illusion of their actual bone structure. Okay, so dogs that are really straight here, okay, if they're really straight in the rear, that means that they can't really move properly. Okay, so if you have a dog that's really straight and they don't have that natural knee, they can't walk properly then. So some dogs are just built that way, and they don't have correct structure. So we want to give them that angulation, and it just looks nicer. And again, it gives the dog a little more style.
Thank you.
But it's really, structurally, it's really helpful to have that nice angle in the rear. And again, I'm just coming and just pinching up this hair because we're going to let him grow out a little bit. I'm going to comb up the inside of the leg. Let me see if I can turn him. Can you turn Bubba? So you can see his back end. We're going to comb up the inside of his leg, and we're just going to just really tip that hair off. But again, I'm making straight parallel lines. We want straight columns in the back. And there, you know, Maltese's hair is so straight, so it's really hard sometimes to make them look nice. Okay, so now we have this nice angle here, and we have this nice angle here. Okay, I'm gonna comb this down and just scissor this just to make it even underneath him. And now we're going to, and even though even if I would have taken his legs all the way off with my comb attachment, I'm still going to scissor after. Okay. I'm always going to make sure that I'm scissoring that hair even. So going to the front of him, when I look at him from the front, and we can turn him. Let's turn you. Okay, combing all this hair up. I can see to make that parallel line, that straight line, there's only a little bit of hair that needs to come off. So I'm going to come from this direction, just so I can stay out of the camera's way, and come straight down this direction. Okay. Yeah, his lesion color. Okay, so combing this up again, you can see to create that parallel line, there's just a little hair that I want to take off and come straight down. And I'm, again, never using this chopping motion. I'm using one smooth motion to go straight down. Okay. Combing all of this chest hair up. I'm going to use my curves, and I'm going to come underneath the chest hair. Bye, buddy. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. We're going to just pinch this chest hair up a little bit here, and then comb up the inside of this leg. And a lot of the times when I'm working with a drop coat, a straight coat, and I comb it, I'll give it the dog just a natural shape so it lays naturally after. And you can see in here, we're just going to come and cut that just a little bit, give it another comb, and come to make that a parallel line. Check my work. Once I have my line set on with the dog's foot on the table, I can come with it raised and clean up those lines. I find if I pick up their leg and try and cut their leg in the air, I'll make what we call snow cone legs, and it'll be longer on the bottom and shorter on the top. And we don't want that, or a pencil leg. We just want nice, straight, parallel line. Okay. Now let's move to his face, so we can at least get that done. and give him a quick comb through. So right by his eyes, to open up his eyes and give him a really cute expression, I'm going to clip inside here with a 10 blade. Okay, and I'm going to pull the top of his head skull skin back, and I'm going to come in the corner of his eye and just take that off with the 10 on both sides. So I use this corner of my blade for this side and this corner of my blade for this side. Okay. And I'm going to take his ear and we're going to fold his ear back. Okay. And I'm going to remove that hair around the outside corner of his ear. Same thing on this side to get that ear hair off. I do that on every dog just to clean it up so that that ear can have a little bit more air flow to it. And we're going to comb all of that down. And I'm going to use my thinning shears for this. So anything that is from the corner of the outside of the ear to the corner of the eye, I'm going to thinning shear off. And I'm using my thinning shears because I want it to look natural and just have a softer look. Whereas if I use my straight edge shears, especially on this type of a coat texture, it might, you might see scissor marks. Okay, so now we've opened up that eye. So we have all of that hair that was from the outside corner of the eye to the ear. And we've thinning sheared that off. And now I'm going to do this side. Make sure that it's even. And to get the corners of the eyes nice and clean, I'm going to again pull that skull skin back. And we're just thinning shearing that off. Okay. I'm going to put the ears back down. And we're going to work on rounding this part. Now that I already have this line set, I'm just going to round my thinners into that line. Same thing with this side. And you can use your comb attachment to take most of this coat off, especially if it's really long and you want to just set your lines with your comb attachment. He doesn't really have too much hair, so I didn't use a comb attachment on his head, but of course you can certainly do that. I do that on every dog pretty much in the salon, just to set my lines. And what I do is whatever I used on the body, I'll use on the head, and I'll just come straight down in both directions and cut that hair off. Flip that ear over, come to the cheek on both sides. And then if this, I want a little bit longer or fuller, I can even switch to a longer comb attachment and come in and get right on the face. And under here is really important. This part at the throat, I'll actually come in and take that off and go reverse. You want that throat area very short because when you're looking at the dog from the side, if they have a lot of throat hair, when they put their head down, it's just going to be bulky down here. So now that we've taken that hair off, it's just going to look a lot neater, and you're going to make his face rounder by doing that. Okay. So we're going to comb all of this hair forward. And when I'm cutting by the eyes, if you notice, my shears are out at a 30-degree angle. They're not this way because we don't want to take any of that hair off. So we want to always hold the shears out this direction and come straight across. Okay. And it looks like this hair here is a lot shorter. So I have to decide if I want to let that hair grow or if I want to cut that hair off. So let me get some more of this hair off under here so I can make his face nice and round. And I'm just going to thinning shear that. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. We want to make sure that it's even, that both sides match. And comb this ear down. Get my spray. It's a little staticky. Spray a little bit. Comb this down. And with my curved shears, I'm going to round the bottom of this ear. Okay, same on this side. And I'm just going to thinning shear the top of the head just to make it look natural. And underneath here. To give him that round face. You want to make sure that his ears are the same length. And some customers like their ears shaved. I shaved some Maltese's ears and some like them really long. So it just depends on what your client wants and likes. And I actually hold this ear up, make sure that we have all of that clean behind the ear on both sides. Okay. And that's really all I would do on him. Spray him up with a little spray. And he's good to go home. Of course, I'm going to do this other side, but just to save time, I'm only going to do one side. You don't want to stand, Billy? And we can put a little Halloween bow on him. Yes, we can. And send him home.
No, he looks
You
really
see him okay?
Yes.
Any questions on Billy?
Yes. I'm going to unmute all the participants. So if they want to ask, they can ask.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I wanted to confirm with you, Tammy, that you said that when we use the number 10 blade under a hood, the hair is longer versus using a number 30.
Yeah, so on the, when you're using a 30 blade under the attachment comb, it's just going to be a little bit shorter. So if you put a 10 blade, it'll be a little bit longer, just a very little bit.
Okay. And
Talk, but tell me one thing.
can everyone
Take dog to staying in pool.
Yes, sir. Can you repeat louder?
Manvi, I think it will be best if
Maybe
we mute everybody, and whoever wants to ask a question can unmute themselves.
बटन चालू कराया
Otherwise, we can't hear who's asking a question.
Okay, I did that.
Great, thanks. So anybody who wants to ask a question, please unmute yourself, and Tammy is happy to answer whatever you want. Amarjot Singh ji, I think you are muted. I think you want to ask a question, but you are muted, sir. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. I'm unmuted. Well done, ma'am. You are doing very good job, and you teach me everything with best. But I want to say one thing: how to train dog to stay in grooming table.
Okay, so when you start them off as puppies, you want to do the same routine when you're doing them as a puppy. So it's all learned behavior grooming. So when you're grooming them, you want to make sure that you're teaching them how to stand, and you're teaching them by coming in and rubbing the clipper along their body, just like this, to get them used to it. Especially when they're puppies, they're very scared, so they're moving their heads like this a lot. So you want to just turn your clipper on and just rub it on them. A lot of the times when you're coming in, especially around the eye area, like this, you want to just use your fingertips like this to kind of trick them. And so I'm rubbing him, good boy, you're a good boy. And then I'm going to come in very quickly with my thinning shears and cut that hair out. So you're almost tricking them. So, and constantly, having your clients also groom them at home and suggest that they put them on something, not get on the floor with them or put them on their lap. Put them on a table so that they know it's grooming time.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, ma'am.
Mr. Pramod, do you have a question?
No, it's okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam,
Yes.
excuse me. I have a question.
Okay.
After how many days you send your reminder to your client for grooming? After how many days? Grooming is repeated after how many days?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
I'm asking,
Say it one more time.
when you groom once your dog, it lasts for how many days?
So it depends on the length of blade that the blade you use. The shorter the blade, the longer the haircut's going to last. So if you use a 4-blade to say a 1 attachment comb, you might get a couple more weeks out of the haircut if you're using the shorter 4-blade. So it just depends on the length of hair.
And also the question was that how often should a dog be groomed? I mean, on an average, to keep the dog in a condition.
Okay. So again, that depends on the length of blade you're using. I always recommend that they come every 4 to 6 weeks. Every 4 to 6 weeks, they need their toenails cut. They need their eyes trimmed. So if you're getting them to come in every 4 to 6 weeks, then there's really no maintenance that the owner needs to do at home. If
Tammy,
they want, yeah.
Sorry, a quick one. Do you recommend now in the times of COVID, how should we be taking care of the equipment to sanitize it right, to make sure that the customer knows and feels the confidence on the groomer that everything is, well for the dog, and once they take the dog home, they'll be safe. Anything that you recommend?
So in my salon, everybody wears a mask. It's mandatory that we have masks on, and we're only letting 2 clients in right now at a time in our lobby. So when they come in, they have to social distance. Our tables are all 6 feet away from each other. So if I need to take my mask off to eat my lunch at my table, I can do that safely because I'm standing 6 feet away from my next coworker. And I disinfect between all of the dogs with a disinfectant that the CDC recommends that's safe for dogs. We use, I think it's Best Shot is the disinfectant that we're using. It's a 265. So 1 gallon of disinfectant, I can dilute it, and I can make 265 gallons of disinfectant. So
does Andis have a disinfectant as well? I believe there is a product called Cool Care for which, there was something put out that it's very safe now to use. So anything on that?
So the Cool Care disinfectant can be used on your blades in between. This actually disinfects against quite a bit. If you read the bottle on the back, let's see where it says, this will disinfect quite a few different viruses. So this Cool Care is very good to use on your clippers. They've pretty much shown that really the virus, the pathogens that contain the virus don't live on pet hair. So we're not too concerned that it's living on the pet's hair. Now, obviously, if I had a client who was sick at home and coughing on their dog and brought their dog into me, all of our dogs go right into the bathtub. They're washed right.
Did my mic, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, we just missed you a bit. Yeah.
Okay, because my earbuds definitely died now.
Yeah.
All of our dogs go into the bathtub. The only time that we're doing a dirty dog is if they're very matted. So we'll shave them down on our table, disinfect our table, and they go right into the bathtub. So just by washing them with soap and water is getting rid of the virus in case there is ever anything living on the pet hair. But again, they're really proven that the pathogens don't live on pet hair. So just using a disinfectant to sanitize, your grooming station, make sure that the dogs go right into the bathtub, they're all clean. And just that when you have contact with your client, that it's safe. That's pretty much what we're doing.
Thanks, Tammy.
Any more questions?
Hi, Tammy, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, so there's one question from my side as you were grooming Maltese. So sometimes we see the Maltese have the drop coat. So what products can be used to lift them up while grooming? I mean, they have this drop coat kind of. So when we are doing a short clip on them, so we need a coat to be lift up. So what products would you suggest, any conditioner or any specific shampoo to lift their coat up?
To give them more body, more fullness. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
For us, because in our salon, we use the same shampoo on every dog. They get allergenic shampoo. So we don't use a different shampoo for every dog. Every dog gets the same shampoo, only just because we've had too many clients that get, oh, my dog is scratching now at home because you use the shampoo. So we use the same shampoo on every dog. If I was going to want to give the dog a little bit more body, I would probably add a little product into it, and even adding a product like a mousse or a hair gel is hard because you don't want to leave it in the coat either. So some of the dogs that have really straight coats, it's hard to give them body on, say, a straight Shih Tzu hair or a Maltese coat. You can try, I'm trying to think of a shampoo that you guys have. Does BioGroom
Or any
have,
specific, yeah,
pardon?
any specific ingredients we should look for while purchasing a shampoo?
We just use an all natural hypoallergenic shampoo on all of our dogs. So we do have
Okay.
specialty shampoos like an oatmeal or an aloe. We have a medicated, the tar and sulfur. So depending if a dog's having allergies or any skin irritations, we'll wash them in the hypoallergenic to get all the dirt off first, and then we'll use the specialty shampoo. So I don't really use a lot of fancy shampoos just because it's too expensive. And we, in our salon, we do probably about 40 to 50 dogs in one day. So we're very busy. We have, 7 groomers. So if you're smaller and you can use more of the expensive shampoos, then go for it. But for our salon, to keep costs down, we use just the same shampoo, and it's very cost effective for us.
Okay. Okay.
Any more questions?
No, Tammy, it was very well explained. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess this sums it.
Tammy, I want to ask you one thing. When do you want to come to India?
When COVID's over.
We look forward to hosting you in India and doing a live session instead of a Zoom session. And, it'll be great for all the guys who've joined. Thank you so much, for being there and, listening to her and seeing what wonderful creation she's done. But definitely it'll be an honor to, kind of get you to India, stay here a few days, visit a few cities, and, perform live.
Yeah, I would love that. Let's all keep our fingers crossed that COVID goes away soon.
Yes, of course. Only after that.
Yes.
Manvi,
Thank you,
up to
everyone, so much. I really appreciate it. Any more questions? I know we ran way over time.
Thank you, Tammy. This was okay. Ganesh has one question. Can we take one last question?
Sure.
Yes, Ganesh, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? Ganesh? Okay. Okay. I think we lost him. Thanks a lot, Tammy. This was an awesome session, and we learned a lot, and especially all pointers that you told us about in everyday grooming. It's for show grooming, it's another level, another body, but with everyday grooming and using clippers to do the face and the ears and even the jawline, that's something we learned today. And yes, definitely we are looking forward to having you in India and show us live in action all the dogs that you groom.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you.
Tammy, one last word from you. Andis, we know, has been there for almost like 100 years now, just about 2 years for us to go to get that 100 years. Anything from you on that last word for all the groomers in India who are listening to you?
I just want to say thank you very much. I really enjoy teaching. Anybody has any questions for me after we're done, you can, of course, send me a message on Facebook. Thank you so much. Andis is a great company. We have great products. And I know that Rohit is our salesman. So if you have any questions for him regarding anything, how to purchase anything, you can, of course, reach out to him. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you so much. It was wonderful having you tonight in you've really added a lot of value, taught a lot of things to the Indian groomers, and we hope they look forward to seeing you alive, one day perform in India.
Yes, I would love that.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
Rohit, for making this happen, and thank you Nicole also for
Yeah.
connecting us.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it, Tammy, too.
Thank you.
We'll definitely do some more work with the India groomers, maybe another webinar and hopefully live in the future.
Oh, Nicole's alive. I didn't see that. Nicole, thank you so much
here.
for getting this for India done. ABK and me are really grateful for, this effort that we put this across from Andis. I'm sure the
Yeah.
viewers loved it. And we look forward to having, more meaningful sessions going forward.
Yes, and make sure you check out our Andis Grooming Facebook page. I know on Monday we have a free demonstration on Cocker Spaniel faces with Annie
Wonderful.
Williams.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's for everybody, and that's free right on our Facebook, Andis Grooming.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Tammy.